Hi, and welcome to another edition of our People First interview series, where we shine a light on great companies that not only do interesting and cool work, but most importantly, recognise and value their people. Identifi Global is a market leader in personalised career management and talent acquisition consultancy to the legal tech and legal services market, with great candidate experience guaranteed. I'm honoured today to be joined by Rachel Denholm, a chartered trademark attorney for Lawrie IP. Lawrie IP is a Glasgow-based firm of patent, trademark and design attorneys, founded in 2010, so it's celebrating its 10-year anniversary, so happy birthday, Lawrie IP. The firm is rapidly growing and have over 25 people now, and they've grown by 35% this year alone. Rachel, hopefully I've explained the firm okay. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great
I'm
stuff.
doing well.
Give us an idea. You actually joined the firm mid-pandemic, didn't you? So give us a little oversight of what that was like.
Yeah, I started with the firm at the beginning of June this year, so we were already in full lockdown at that point. But I had actually interviewed with the firm back in November 2019, so that was way before COVID had even been invented. So it wasn't, it was all perfectly normal at that point, but I had quite a long notice period to work. And so by the time I got to Lawrie IP, everyone had been moved to remote working.
Wow, okay.
So yeah, it was just a case of sort of going into the office on my first day and getting the kit in a really socially distant way, taking it home, and I was up and running within about an hour. Had my first meeting that day as well. So
wow, okay.
Yeah.
So take us back. How did you become a trademark attorney?
So I studied law at university, at Dundee University, and I did IP as part of my degree and found it quite interesting. And so I just applied to a few sort of trademark and patent firms. And back in the day when you sort of wrote a letter and posted it. So I think one of the good things about being a trademark attorney is that it is a sort of UK-wide qualification. So you're not restricted to practicing in Scotland or England. And I spent most of my career up to date living in London, and I moved up to Glasgow just 3 years ago. So there is that flexibility with it, which is really good.
Yeah, okay. Of course, Lawrie IP, they do more than just trademark. Obviously, you're a trademark attorney, but what, do you want to expand on the organisation a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, on the trademark side, where we cover sort of all sectors, and from fashion to automotive, telecommunications, food and drink, and on the patent side, we cover sort of all disciplines, like life sciences, chemistry, engineering.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And we act for clients, on the whole range of clients, really, from sort of new startups, university spin-offs, small medium enterprises, and big corporations as well, that have a big portfolio of brands.
Yeah, okay. So you obviously started the process with, in November, as you mentioned. So can you give us an idea of what it was like leading up to you starting with the organisation? What was going through your mind, and what was the organisation doing to reassure you?
Yeah, so as I said, I interviewed in November, and I didn't start until June. So I suppose I was a little bit apprehensive, firstly because a lot changed in the world during that time, and I wasn't really sure sort of how that was going to go, and also just the idea of starting a new job remotely. I was a little bit apprehensive about that. But as it turned out, I had nothing to worry about, and the firm was really sort of quite good and sort of staying in contact throughout that time, and making sure that I was reassured that I would have as normal a start as possible in the circumstances. So everything just carried on as planned, so that was fine.
What can you give us an insight? What sort of things has Lawrie done to to, I guess, assure you around the COVID situation? Have they made any changes to the office environment? What?
I just I sort of kept in touch by phone, with the directors, and just they were really quite open about all the things that they were putting in place to kind of make sure that it was going to be a safe working environment. And so when all the existing staff moved over to working from home, I knew about that as well. And we chatted through how that was working. So by the time I came to actually start, I was really familiar with a lot of the ways that things are done. So it was really good. It wasn't just a case of, 6 months passed and I hadn't heard anything since I'd interviewed with them. It was nothing like that. So
yeah, I think we've seen that sort of drive for hyper communication these days. It's become super important, and which is probably one of the benefits of COVID, I guess, is that everyone is absolutely desperate to communicate with everybody. So, I mean, on that note, are there any benefits to onboarding remotely? Has there, can you give us, I guess, the pluses and the minuses of being onboarded remotely?
I think there is that sort of greater effort to stay connected now that we are sort of working remotely. And I was just made to feel like a proper integrated part of the team from day one. The firm does have quite a good way of keeping structure going with sort of team meetings and catch-ups and video calls and virtual tea breaks and everything. So that was all really good. And I feel as though, if that had been somewhere else where that wasn't so much of a thing, then I think it would have been easy to feel quite isolated. But I was lucky not to have that experience when I started at Lawrie.
Yeah.
And I think as well, because I was working remotely already by that point, it was a bit of a continuing what I was doing anyway, same desk, different laptop. So it was quite easy to kind of ease into it all. So
yeah. Did you struggle with anything personally?
I wouldn't say I struggled with anything. I mean, and as far as the induction process went, that wasn't compromised in any way because, I think we've all realised now that it is completely possible to do everything remotely. I mean, I think if you're actually physically sat in a shared office with someone and you're sitting next to them and you're looking at the same screen and they're showing you sort of the systems and the database and everything, there's probably not quite a substitute for that, but then, you can share your screen online and do everything that way. And yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that probably took a little bit longer because of the remote working thing is just the fact that, if you're physically in an office, you can see what people do and what their roles are just from the way they interact with people and who they interact with and who they talk to on a daily basis. And that gives you a good idea of what their role is. And I think if you're working remotely and you haven't met people in person, that's not immediately clear. So, but then you piece it together eventually. So.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I think when you've worked in an organisation for a period of time, cliques naturally form, don't they, in organisations, especially larger organisations. And I don't mean that in a horrible sense. It's that you build a friendship group, don't you, and a networking group to a certain extent, and actually it's sort of broken down those walls to a certain extent, hasn't it? And enabled people to just develop, good relationships remotely because they might just be better at their job, and more efficient, and haven't got to worry about, making sure you go out for the Thursday drink or whatever it is, having to be there. You just you're on a par with everybody, I guess, in that sense.
I think that's definitely true. And it has been really easy. And I think for me, I'm 7 months into this now and it's all I've known and it feels normal. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. The fact that I've not had my first day in the office yet, but it seems to be working okay. And, and like I said, everyone seems to be making just more of that social effort. So,
yeah. Well, I think it'd be remiss of us to ignore that, and because not every organisation has done that, and you know, you've been, you know, an excellent promoter of Lawrie, saying how well they've looked after you, and you've onboarded, you know, really naturally, and you've become a part of the team. So perhaps you could just give us a bit more insight, you know, and in terms of the things that they've done. You mentioned lots of those meetings, and you know, let's promote them a little bit, because I think what they've done, from what you've told me, has been fantastic.
Yeah. So I mean, they do have quite a bit of structure when it comes to keeping team meetings going and that sort of thing, you know,
Yeah.
even remotely. And the good thing about it is the fact that everyone is encouraged to participate in these meetings. So we all take our turn to sort of chair the meeting and do the minutes and everything. So there's a rota, and it makes sure that no one is left out. And you know, I think there is always that danger that maybe if you have a certain type of personality, you might just kind of fade away into the background when you're at home. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened at all. And you know, everyone's ideas are welcome in the meeting. And you know, when it comes to sort of the, you know, the way the meetings are run, there's no hierarchy. You know, we've got directors, attorneys, support staff, all giving their input into these things. And yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of sort of online social events as well, because the firm is really mindful of the fact that, you know, they have taken on a lot of new recruits, and there would have been welcome drinks, lunches. None of that was sort of, you know, it couldn't happen. So,
Yeah.
you know, they've gone to a lot of effort to sort of come up with alternatives. So we've had online quizzes, we've had sort of other things as well, and the firm has provided a takeaway, you know, to sort of go along with that.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
it has been quite nice.
It sounds like it was you know, a good culture before
Yeah.
lockdown. So you know, they've just tried to replicate that online, and clearly that's important. So you know, I
Yeah.
think that definitely comes through, and you know, a lot of organisations perhaps didn't have that culture, have struggled, you know, and
Yeah.
actually become you know, a bit enforced really, and all of a sudden, you know, these companies are doing random quizzes, and you know, everyone's got to wear a funny hat, and it's like, well, we've never done this before, so what's the, you know, it feels a bit weird. I mean, not, I don't want to belittle anyone who's trying, you know, it's not the point, but I think it's, if the culture's already there,
Yeah.
then you know, the rest is easy. So
Yeah, I think I mean, I think with a lot of these things it can feel a bit forced, and I have to admit that, you know, I'm not a massive fan of, you know, doing things over a screen, because I'd rather just be there in person. But I do get the impression from the firm that, you know, this sort of culture of you know, kind of making everything sort of quite friendly. I could tell that that was there before.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, what's going on in, you know, in your world from a business perspective? Has COVID developed any trends? Has it, you know, have you seen any, you know, increases or decreases in part of your market? How's COVID affected your business?
I think as far as the sort of the level of work is concerned, that hasn't dropped at all. We have noticed that our clients are doing things differently from the way they did them before, to sort of, you know, cope with the challenges of the pandemic. And there have, I mean, especially in, you know, the hospitality industry, for example, a lot of our clients have sort of moved their businesses online. You know, their premises have had to close on a temporary basis, so they've now pushed the sort of online part of their business. And then, you know, that sort of thing then creates work for us too. I think a lot of businesses have moved into other areas. So I think it has just forced our clients to be a bit more creative about how they do things. And you know, we've noticed there's a lot of new startup businesses as well. You know, I think there's lots of reasons for that. Maybe, you know, someone has been made redundant, and then they're thinking, this is like my opportunity to do what I wanted to do all along, and that was to, you know, create something. So there's a lot of innovation going on. We can see that. And it's just a change of strategy, really. But you know, on the trademark side, we kind of cover all sectors anyway, so we just we can advise on all that. So.
Yeah. And what are they demanding most from you right now? What's the thing that's keeping you busy at the minute?
I think it's asking for advice on, sort of moving into new business areas, new startups, asking for advice on that and how they go about branding, because they've not done that at all. This is their first sort of experience of that. And I think at the moment we've got a lot of clients sort of wanting to Brexit proof their intellectual property rights. So, we're sort of advising our clients on how best to sort of protect their intellectual property and to sort of maintain their existing rights as well.
Right.
Because that is a concern for clients.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think it's a concern for a lot of people now. Notwithstanding Boris, I think it's a concern for him. I wonder if he'll get it right. So anyway, let's not go there. But now clearly, the business has a great culture, great people. You talk really fondly of them, and I'm sure the rest of the team will. But so clearly the people are a big differentiator for Lawrie IP. But what else makes you different? I mean, this is a new area to me, so forgive my ignorance. But so what makes you different, from other similar organisations?
Well, I mean, I moved up to Scotland to work 3 years ago, and that's when I became aware of Lawrie IP, and I had sort of heard that they were an ambitious firm and that they were growing rapidly. I knew they had a well-qualified team, and so that's kind of what attracted me to them, really. And they do have, a very sort of collaborative approach to things where the whole team, like I said, is sort of brought into, giving input on how, the firm's policies and processes are run. And I think that's quite a unique thing. And the firm has, sort of focus groups that the staff are encouraged to join in with, should they wish to do so. It's all, optional, but so they have a client care business development group, they have an innovation group, and they have a people group as well. And those are, very popular, and it's a way for the staff at large to contribute to sort of running the firm, really. And I think that sort of is quite a standout thing.
Yeah, fantastic. I think it's important, and we're seeing this more and more now, especially in when things are down. People look for organisations that can add value, and that have got that sort of good ethical standpoint as well. And and we've seen these big corporations are starting to crumble, and the small organisations, as you experience, from a business perspective, people starting up, people want those more agile, more customer facing, more customer focused organisations. So it sounds like you guys are on the right path. I know that you've recently recruited someone outside of. I know you're typically, a Scottish-based organisation, but you've recruited someone outside of your normal catchment area. So, how's that gone for you? I mean, or the organisation, and has COVID given you the confidence to do that? And if so, why? Yeah,
it really has. I mean, one of the issues, in Scotland is that there is it has in the past been quite sort of difficult to recruit qualified professionals in Scotland, because it is quite a small pool, and so I think with the whole working from home revolution, I think that has sort of forced businesses to kind of look elsewhere and maybe cast the net a bit wider, in order to find the candidate that is the right fit for the team. And so that's what we've done, and that has worked well. And it doesn't matter sort of where you are geographically, you can do everything. And so I'm sure that won't be the last. So
yeah, good. Well, I think it's good, especially if you can do it in such a great way that you've been doing it, then sometimes for even people working with a remote company, they still want that interaction, that physical interaction. So, even if it's only, once a week or month or whatever it looks like. So, but feeling part of a team is still really important, even if someone does want to work from home, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So last couple of questions then, and because we like to keep these short and brief and interesting. So what's the best piece of advice that you can give an organisation recruiting people, post pandemic? So looking at, I guess, more remote working, because we're going to see lots of that.
Yeah.
You've experienced it, so let's the things that you've been good and bad. Let's share some advice. What advice would you give people?
I think it's completely doable, and it works. And I don't think that businesses should really hold off on the recruitment plans just because, well, just for the sake of waiting until a return to the office starts. And I think it's really important for businesses to actually put out the word that they are recruiting, because I think candidates might be thinking at the moment, or that they just assume that no one is hiring. And I know that Lawrie IP, they have sort of put the word out there about their sort of recruitment plans.
Yeah.
And I think as well, I think Lawrie has been bucking the trend a bit in that way, in that they have sort of ambitious plans for growth, and they've stuck with them, and they haven't let the pandemic get in the way of that. And so I think I think the best piece of advice as well for sort of onboarding someone new is just to, make sure that, everyone stays connected. And even when it comes to interviewing, you can do that on Zoom. And I know that that's how Lawrie have been doing it in recent months. And I think, it's possible to, carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think you wish you'd invested in Zoom earlier on, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, a bit like, it's like the Facebook moment, I think, wasn't it? It just boomed all of a
Yeah.
sudden overnight. So, thanks for that. I think that's really interesting points, and I think there is a lot of organisations out there that are hesitant because they don't have the right processes in place. Not so much technology these days, but even still, not everyone has Teams. Zoom can be expensive if you're a smaller organisation. If you want the full package. So, but actually, if you've got a good culture and you had a good culture before, taking that online should be relatively easy. And if you're unsure about your culture, I think that you can start to change and adapt. Now as well. So I think that's really sage advice. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think as well that that's how we're interacting with our clients as well. We're doing that online. They're working from home too, and I think it works pretty well, because we all understand that we're all in the same boat with it, and things aren't perfect and things go wrong every now and then with the technology and everything. But it's
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Rachel, that's been fantastic. Thank you for that. And if
great.
you are listening to this and would like to know more about Lawrie IP's recruitment plans in 2021, now it will be. So yeah, please get in touch. We'll put links in the comments, and you can go to their website, and there'll be some information there for you to look out. Even if you just like to inquire, find out more about their business, either as an employee or as a client, please get in touch with them. And if by the time that this goes out, it will be 2021. So wishing everybody that they've had a nice Christmas, and hopefully a much more prosperous 2021. Thanks, Rachel, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Nice to speak to you.